Hey, what's up? This is Sarah Bueno. I'm your host for Conversations with the Wounded Healer, and I feel a little wacky today. I think at this point in the pandemic, I've just lost my mind, and this is just how we're going to roll. So thank you for joining me today. Before I introduce our wonderful guest today, if you are listening to this when it comes out on March 3rd, in just 2 days, we are going to be launching our webinar series called Head Heart Conversations. And that first webinar is called OMG. It's called Conversations with the Wounded Healer. And I really think of it as a call to action to support therapists to really step into their own healing with courage. So if you're listening to this right before, that is on March 5th. And as a special to you podcast listeners, I'm offering you $20 off your order. So when you go to buy your tickets, and it's all virtual, of course, right? When you go to buy your tickets, use the code podcast when you register and you will get $20 off. And that is at www.tinyurl.com/hhconvos. I hope to see you there. All right, now on to today's guest. So today's guest is Jim Martin, and I found Jim, I think it was Scott Tusa. Yes, it was. So Scott Tusa was on the podcast way long ago. I can't even remember what episode it was. And I think he had posted a meme from the Unusual Buddha. And then I started following them, and it's really, really funny. It's cute and kitschy, and I just love it. And so I reached out to Jim and wanted to have him on the show. So he says, I'm Jim Martin, founder of the unusualbuddha.com. In our community, we cover meditation, spirituality, and metaphysics in a fun and contemporary way. Meditation resources that are practical and in plain language are our goal. So I hope you enjoy the fun I had. This is if you like my laugh, which I get that a lot. People say they like my laugh. You're going to love this episode because Jim and I pretty much laugh the entire time. So I know you're going to enjoy it. Hello, Jim. Welcome to Conversations with the Wounded Healer.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm disappointed that you're not looking like Meditato right now.
Oh, that's what you see, because Meditato and I are not the same. We're different, in fact, different people. Yes, it's
that's so unfortunate.
It's very rare, fine. That is just an excuse to have so much fun with something. You know, to me, this whole thing is taking meditation and sitting and breathing, taking it so seriously. It's just maddening. It's just like, dude, you're just sitting on a fancy chair, talking to somebody, telling them how to breathe. Sometimes you throw in the artistic, voice. Now I'm going to count to 3 and we're going to begin meditate. You know what I mean? That right. Real soft voice.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You know it. Yeah.
I do. Yes, very much so.
Listen.
Let's back up. Tell people who you are, what you do, and then we'll tell them who Meditato is, because that is brilliant.
I'm Jim Martin of the unusualbuddha.com. I throw in like founder in there, but all that means is that I pushed a couple more buttons than the average person that sees it. We started with Facebook, up to, I think, 125,000 followers or something like that now. Moved to Instagram, basically try to get the message everywhere. I got very into meditation. I learn better through communication with people, even if it is written. If I ask you a question, I'll learn more than if I were to read that same information written down. So I started asking questions and talking to people and trying to interact to get into, further into Buddhism and meditation. And I found a lot of people that were quite frankly assholes. And it was... Yeah. I hate to say it, but and not that I'm not, don't get me wrong. I have my own, I think we all have an asshole streak at some point.
Of course we do.
As a newbie, beginner or whatever, weeb, if you want to get into some of the terminology that's out there, a lot of people were very dismissive, very rude, because I didn't know where on my keyboard the, correct pronunciation, accent marks and stuff were to do Sanskrit and stuff. And
how dare you?
Yeah. Rather than talk to me about this concept, you would rather diss me for not having the correct punctuation mark over the letter N, the third letter N in the word, or, come on, man, why are we talking like this? So it actually started with a page called Can't Believe It's Not Buddha. Because I was...
This is why I wanted you on the show. I just love your humor.
Yeah, it's just, it's punny. It's, because some of it, as I get older, I think I've always been kind of into dad jokes, but it's always punny. It's always that kind of stuff. But I was just into having fun with the concept, because to me, for various reasons, I think humor is how I handle the world. whether it's a defense mechanism, whether, and sometimes it is that, whether it's a shield, whether it's to get information out of people, whether it's to get something off my chest that you couldn't get with any other kind of delivery. Humor is how I live, and humor is how I process things. It's another one of those things, like it has to be a game for me to learn. That's another thing. That's one of my weird learning styles. I got to gamify it a little bit for it to stick. So like the Jeopardy kind of thing will help me some. Yeah, that's where it started. And I just started making memes. And honestly, it came down to what I really wanted to do and what kind of the goal is now with a lot of the memes and stuff is I'm probably never going to create a great masterpiece of philosophical treatises or whatever. But it doesn't mean I couldn't get somebody interested in it. And I couldn't get somebody interested in it through humor. So if I make a joke about meditation or samadhi, well then, okay, well, most people are going to go, hey, I want to get the joke too. So they'll go look it up and like, oh, samadhi, that means basically wisdom. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's to me, I think planting that seed to me is more valuable than, I guess, spoon feeding it to people or packaging it the way it usually is packaged, if that makes sense. It's a very long, convoluted description of what I do. But basically, I make the memes that are funnies, or I try to make them funny, and try to introduce concepts to people that most people would not play with, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, enter Meditato. Yes,
Meditato. So Meditato is actually, you get the inside scoop here because nobody knows this.
Yeah.
Meditato and I are the same person. I know. It's, yeah. I had to tell your listeners, I'm pretty sure everyone knows by now anyway, due to the unique mustache that Meditato seems to have, but it's a filter. It's actually through Instagram itself. And it's something
it?
It's actually, I had to search it, because I wanted a potato. So
yes,
you have to have a potato filter. Why would you? People are out here getting beautified. I'm trying to be a fucking potato. So
right.
Yeah, mainly the idea was to, again, further play with the concept. I mean, I feel like we've been beating this dead horse. I mean, I guess if you want to get technical, Buddhism and Eastern philosophies are been around forever. They really only came to America in the 50s or 60s, and we've kind of continued to carry out these concepts in the same way with a very like sing-songy voice and a very, I don't know, just the deliveries. Like, I'm sure they're great people. I don't necessarily agree with how they pitch it the same all the time, but like, Jack Cornfields and your Deepak Chopras, those kind of guys, don't get me wrong, they are huge. They have big followings. A lot of people love them, but I don't like that sing-songy voice. I don't like that delivery. It doesn't sit well with
real.
Me. Exactly. And I want to have fun with it. And a lot of times I have, it's like weird thing, like I'll pick up sayings and stuff. And that's what I wanted to do with Meditato, was kind of play with the sayings and play with the soft voice and those kind of things to kind of, again, make light of it, because I don't feel like it should be so serious all the time. And I feel like you could reach more people if it weren't always pitched the same way. I have a lot of friends that are into philosophy and meditation, those kind of concepts, but they're very turned off because it doesn't jive with their Korn record from the 90s, if you want to go that far back. Or Disturbed, or you know what I mean? So like, not to say all my friends are so hard, because I have friends that are into rap and hip hop and all that stuff too. But again, you're not going to reach everybody the same way. I'm sorry, you can't talk like Simon and Garfunkel and expect everybody to be into that. You know what I mean? It's just not how the world works. Sometimes a lot of my intros and stuff are all hip hop because that's what I like. So that's what I put out there. But I just feel like it's a different spin. And that's mainly the idea with Meditato, was to get people to have fun with some of these concepts. Honestly, I record more times as Meditato and end up not using it because I can't keep a straight face because it's a potato the whole time. So I'm trying to...
Well, stop looking at yourself. Just do more. They're so funny.
Oh. And I've been sitting down. I'm like, man, I have so many I could just sit through and just do. And then a lot of times it's also been an excuse to play with some features on some platforms that I wouldn't usually, because I guess I don't want to limit myself, but like memes are, to me, setup, delivery, joke, visual, all at once. And I really like them for that reason, but I feel like I've like pigeonholed myself a lot, because Facebook, I mean, I posted 3 a day on the Unusual Buddha for probably, like 5 or 6 years now. So some of them I find, but a lot of them, if they have the website on them, I made that. So obviously, one of the rules, if you're making stuff on social media, is don't put your watermark over someone else's watermark. That's a dick move.
Right.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Anyway, let's dig into more about who you are. So what initially drew you to meditation? Like, what was going on in your life that you were like, I need to sit and be quiet? Because not a lot of people make that choice in this busy world, right?
To be honest, I was always interested in philosophy and meditation and things like that. I have books on Norse mythology and Greek mythology and things like that as a kid. I was always really interested. But when I found Buddhism, that's the one that stuck with me as far as the questions and answers and self-investigation and those kind of things. It kind of stuck with me. So as a teenager, actually 17 years old, I picked up a book edited by Dwight Goddard called the Buddhist Bible. It's I can send you a link if you like, but obviously there is no per se Buddhist Bible. It's the Tripitaka. It was mainly just a collection of sutras that he found important or he found that were foundational. And I read it, and of course, like a 17-year-old, I do everything with, and probably really still now, but studied with a very great lack of discipline, and I just kind of read through it when I wanted.
Yeah.
And I, through various moves with parents and graduating high school and going to tech school and all those kind of things, it got put away. And I actually found it not long after I found out my wife was pregnant with our first daughter. It was probably like 7 years later. I was 24. I feel like it was one of those big moments where I was trying to find meaning, trying to find purpose, trying to find something of value to give a new little person. You know what I mean? And not to say like, I used to read the Bible cover to cover.
Really?
Yeah, I've been told that.
That's quite ambitious.
Well, so not all at once. I have read it cover to cover, but usually it was piecemealed. And then a couple of times I would just like, I'm just going to, vow to read it cover to cover. I've been told that I have a surprising amount of knowledge of the Bible for somebody who's not Christian.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people like to talk about that kind of stuff with me, but and it's not to say there's no value in Christianity. I guess what I'm getting at is It's just that this one spoke to me. It resonated with me harder than the Bible did. And, I think we've all, in the Western world, America specifically, I think we've all had our fair share of awful experiences with Bible thumpers. Or I live in Virginia, so it's kind of like the Bible Belt here. And you get the old lady that's got the fan, like, I declare you're a Buddhist. You know what I mean? Like you get the
right. Like it's like you practice witchcraft, and also witches are awesome. That's a whole other topic. But like, come on.
Believe it or not, that's actually Nellie. Nellie's a hedge witch. She's actually my partner in crime. She lives in Canada. She actually was somebody I met through a Dudist Facebook group. So I don't know if you're familiar with Dudism.
No, what's that?
Do you remember the Big Lebowski?
Yeah. Oh, no way.
Yes, it is a religion based around.
No, it is not.
Swear to you. So it's a new world interpretation of the Tao Te Ching, of Taoism.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's actually where I met her. So one of the things I did to try and grow the Unusual Buddha is I sent memes that I thought were funny to different groups that I thought it would roughly apply, because it was I don't want to be in there just like, look at my stuff, like I would just show you like, I think this is funny. So again, that's another valuable point of humor. She joined the group and joined the page and was commenting all the time. And then finally I was like, hey, do you have any interest in like being a part of this? And this was almost 6 years ago now. And she said, absolutely. And so we've kind of evolved it to involve more spirituality, because to me, Buddhism doesn't have to be your answer. I just like that you have answers to these questions. Personally, it's an interest of mine that you've sat down and thought about the world enough, the universe or existence enough, that you have an answer for it, or at least a path towards an answer that is much bigger than just what you can see and what you can touch. And you know what I mean? Like I like that about people. So,
well, in paganism or Wiccanism, is it Wiccanism? So I'm not sure how she would define herself, but Wiccan or pagan, like those really intersect very well with Buddhism.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. And like I said, my wife is also, I don't know if she would call herself a hedge witch, but she does do candle magic and those kind of things. And, also grew up super Christian, and her mother was Catholic and those kind of things. So I think we're getting to the point now in our lives where I think I started a little earlier, but we're just ready to get weird with it. You know what I mean? Ready to get weird with your life. This is my life. I'm going to ride this bitch till the wheels fall off, and I'm going to have fun with it. So
yeah, as he wears a Spider-Man and unicorn rainbow shirt.
This is actually Deadpool with a unicorn kitty.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
He's shooting like Cupid-like arrows off the bat. Yeah, this is, again, I don't take a lot of this seriously because I don't take myself seriously very often.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a huge part of life is spirituality. I think that it's amazing that even though your answers may not be mine, the fact that you're even thinking on a grander level than just like a hand-to-mouth mentality of, I wake up in the morning, I go to work, and that is my purpose. I think it's great that people have whatever their definition of what the meaning of life is, or some kind of quest for meaning.
Well, when you like break it down to the core fundamentals of every religion, it's literally just the golden rule. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And that's what I try to tell people is people try to gas things up sometimes like, you're Buddhist and he's not, and you guys are going to fight, like
right.
He's a different school. Some people get into that whole thing of like Buddhism has kind of its own infighting, largely exists only in the West. So,
course.
You're Sokogo Kai used to break down Zen monasteries and stuff. Like, okay, like this affects me to the 0th degree. Like, it doesn't matter. Right. I don't understand why we're talking about this, but I always tell people, like, if that's what's got you good and that's what's got you doing good in the world, who am I to tell you can't have that, or to tell you? That's another reason I approach things the way I do is a lot of people try to codify and classify your meditation techniques and your types and you're not doing it right because that's not anapanasati. That is whatever other Sanskrit word. And that's the word I know because that's the word I've been using for my meditation class. I actually looked it up so that people could have like a fancier experience if they wanted to throw the word out. So
well done.
You're right. And I even had to listen to Google Translate, say it a couple of times. So
100%. Yes.
Anapanasati. You know what I mean? You gotta get it right.
Yeah.
But I don't appreciate that people try to, it's like gatekeeping. You know what I mean? Just if I were to be getting into, when I was younger, I was into Magic the Gathering cards or something like that. And they're like, oh, you don't know how to do swamp mana or whatever. And it's like, teach him. He doesn't know how to meditate. Teach him. By what right are you standing at the gate guarding it? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it's a scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset, right? And if you're truly walking a spiritual path, you want everyone to walk a spiritual path, period, because you want everybody to be putting good into the world instead of trying to take shit from other people.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And that's the thing is it is a giving back. What's the better gift to give somebody than sort of putting a purpose to their day? You know what I mean? To their existence. I think what better thing could you do? Like with meditation, what better thing could you do than to give somebody the gift of slowing down their own thinking to kind of get a handle on their own mental space? I mean, I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I guess I want to give maybe kind of a little tutorial. I'm guessing a lot of folks who listen to the podcast are on some sort of spiritual path because we talk about that shit all the time. I hear a fair number of people, like clients that I work with or just friends or whatever, say, well, I can't meditate. So what do you say to those people?
That's bullshit and you're lying. You can absolutely meditate.
Right.
I rolled into my classes because I hear that same thing all the time. I have a lot of friends. As my day job, I'm a firefighter, and there's a lot of type A personalities. And if you're not a type A personality, you have type A personality traits. So kind of aggressive, goal-oriented.
Tough guy.
Yeah, depending on, you'd be surprised. It depends mostly on what type of apparatus you're in.
Oh, ladder or...
For my county, we have rescues, which are the big toolboxes that, if you're stuck in a car, they get you out. Oh. Trucks that have the ladder on top and they don't bring any water to the fire. They just bring ladders. And then I'm on an engine. So we bring water and a pump. We're the smart ones. We put the water on the fire and the fire goes away. They're bringing ladders to a fire. I guess they want to climb up to the top and look down and go, yep.
Beat it to death.
Yeah, that is a fire. I'm looking down on a fire here. No, it's honestly everyone has a role and they all have very important parts.
Right.
What one does wouldn't work very well without the other, and it's very coordinated and there's a lot of work that goes into it. But it is pretty funny to watch. Some of them are like the varsity football team from high school got something to work on together. Like they got a project together. So they all, hey bro, let's look at this, bro. Yeah, bro, knuckle bump. You know what I mean? They're all so... Anyway, I say all that to say that a lot of people are into meditation and claim they can't because of some kind of personality trait or defect or characteristic, whatever you want to call it. Being the quasi-nerd that I am about this stuff, I sat down and I run a timer. I ran it 12 times and I averaged it. It takes about roughly 8 seconds for me to do one in and out breath. If you have 8 seconds, you have time to meditate. I mean, something as simple as one in breath, out breath, you can absolutely do it. There's no reason you should not be able to. I did recently do a group class on Facebook and I put it out on YouTube as well. So if people want to watch that, it's mainly like a little script that I put together so that people who are starting can have like a base. And again, this is not like a compendium of Buddhist meditation because just within mindfulness alone, there's over 40 different objects of meditation you can use. This is just a very simple serenity meditation focusing on the breath because it usually fits the temperament of most people. A lot of times mindfulness practice, sometimes called dry insight method, because it is for a different kind of person. And it's usually pointed to a different sort of goal. The tradition that I learned or practiced my meditation in was Theravada. So they're kind of like the orthodox Buddhists, I guess. They're like the oldest school that supposedly traces its lineage directly back to the Buddha. And they most revere his teachings. But they say that serenity practice is to get better at insight. Insight is to reach enlightenment. So whatever, it is what it is. They say what they say, but I just find that meditation helps people focus. And that's what I want to do is bring it to normal people. As far as a lot of the stuff that I go into that people come up against when they talk about meditation or look into meditation, the sales pitches, that kills me. I know that, yes, I will admit I live in a capitalist world and I do charge $10 an hour for my meditation classes per client. I actually caught a lot of shit for that, believe it or not, that some people were so mad that I charged so little. And I'm like, you have obviously missed the entire point. If you look very high above your head, you'll see it. And as it rolls on by. But, and again, the reason I did that is because I've put out stuff for free and nobody cared. I put out stuff for $10 and people, one of the best things someone asked about, like, is that too much? And they said, no, it kind of puts skin in the game for me. Like if I book an appointment for $10, I mean, $10 is enough. I'm going to go make sure I'm in on that appointment.
Yeah.
So going back to the salesmanship of it, one thing that drives me nuts is you're not going to be a better tax preparer. You're not going to be a better lover. You're not going to be a better bricklayer. You're not going to, like, those things may happen. But if you go into meditation with a goal like that, you're going to be disappointed. I always tell people that, and I'm sure, if you study this stuff, I'm sure you've probably heard it too, but we don't meditate to gain answers. We meditate to lose the question. And that I think is a good perspective on it, because that's not what we're here for. We're not here for that. If you're here for that, you have already put your practice in a box. You've already limited the most it can do. Another thing that comes up a lot is posture and like, how do I sit and what do I do? And I don't have the right seat for this.
You have an ass, don't you?
You got an ass. So that's one.
Step one.
Yeah, exactly. Step one, have an ass.
Have an ass.
Check.
Ass acquired. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Next.
Achievement unlocked, like a video game. Achievement unlocked. So
man.
The next thing I would say is find something to elevate your ass a little bit off of your surface that you're sitting on. So whether it's your bed or the floor or a rock or a tree branch or whatever, you generally want your knees a little bit lower than your hips. So that forward tilt of your pelvis actually will help open up your diaphragm and help you breathe. Also, it helps you to keep from sitting like a banana. A lot of people have issues with their, like, I'm getting to the age where I sleep wrong and I have like back pain for a week. So anything you can do can kind of help. I've been told I need to do more planks or whatever, but if you sit right, it helps. So, and then stretching a little bit, to keep your back. I'm not a personal trainer. Stretching whatever way feels comfortable for you, but stretch a little bit, because this is your body. You need to be able to sit in this thing. And after a while, people that meditate generally at some point want to do a marathon. They want to see how far can I go with this. So if you set up with good habits in the beginning, you won't be in a place of excruciating pain because, you're already kind of quieting things down. And it is amazing how loud the volume gets turned up on a slight annoyance when there's not as much going on inside your head. So don't worry about the full lotus, and that's with your legs, like the foot is on the opposing thigh. Don't worry about that shit. There's a half
I'll never
lotus.
be able to do that.
I've been meditating for 11 years now, and I don't think I can get my foot on the opposing thigh, but I'd be damned if I could do the other one. I just don't bend that way. And that's fine that you don't. For 2 years, I attended meditation classes at the temple, like I was saying, on my path, and 90% of our sessions were in kitchen chairs, like those old brown, like the old 50s chairs that were donated to the temple, and like they're doo-doo brown chairs, and we all sat in those at a kitchen table and meditated. So don't feel like you have to have, right?
You have young kids.
Yes, I do. Oldest being 11, youngest being 10 months. So we got a bit of a spread here. But
yeah, wow.
As soon as I said it that way, you had that image of that same brown colored chair though, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, people think you have to have these specialized equipment and specialized chairs. And I own it was a gift, so I don't know like the price, but as I've priced them, they're expensive. It's a tatami mat seat, and it's beautiful. And it's got
yeah, I've seen those.
They're very pretty, and it is a hard surface because I generally need a little bit of firmness to hold my big old butt up off the surface, but it makes my ass numb in ways I can't even describe. Like it's painful to sit on. So I actually use a $3 pillow from Target. Like it's I just roll it up. That kind of matches what I need, and that helps me. So people try to use these things as limitations and reasons why they can't meditate. Oh, I don't have the right seat. I don't have the right this. I don't have the right... Like I said, I've had more profound meditation sessions on a busted couch cushion than I have on, in some cases, $300 of seats. That's just not necessary. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're feeling it, it's just like buying a Rolex. Like a Rolex tells time, so does like 500 other kinds of watches. But if a Rolex speaks to you, if that's really what makes you feel good and it's not just about the thing, then go for it. Like I'm not here to judge what you do, but you don't need it is the point I try to make to people.
Yeah, I set up on the couch and I have this little pillow structure with my blanket. I cover myself up, and my husband calls it my meditation nest.
There you go. I like to get the blanket wrapped around, so I feel like as close as I'm ever going to get it to a Tibetan temple, and I'm in the zone, and I'm like ready to go, all nice and cozy. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that comes up that people tend to think is rules. Like another one that bugs me is the eyes. People always go, "Oh, do I close my eyes? Do I open my eyes?" Largely depends on your goals. For me, the best purpose I found for eyes open is if you're worried about falling asleep. So you turn towards a light source and leave your eyes half open and it's just a soft open. But some people, and this blows my mind, think when your eyes are open to meditate, you have to keep them open the entire time. Fucking blink.
Do what the fuck you want.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And that's another thing that kills me about Buddhism in general and largely to be honest, Western Buddhists, is it's a system built on no dogmas, yet we bring all the dogma to it. Like, what are you doing? You brought the rules. Like, what? And don't get me wrong, there are some things that, I guess this whole thing of like traditions of men, this is what we do. This is what, I don't want to say men to exclude women. I mean, men is
but
humanity.
Let's go ahead and say
and
patriarchy.
It is a lot of time. Yeah. If I'm being real, yeah. Like
Right.
I've probably had more of that shit imparted on me by guys than I ever have a female of any kind. But I feel like it's what people tend to do, or we find that to be acceptable to do that to people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, again, part of the gatekeeping, part of the lording knowledge over others that we just somehow think we're entitled to. Like I always tell people, like, your meditation shouldn't look like a statue. A statue is a fucking statue. It's not human. It doesn't breathe. It doesn't move. You don't have to have these fancy mudras and these cover your heart chakra with your gang signs or whatever if that stuff works for you, if you're feeling that, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it twice. Do it one for me. But don't feel like, I don't know how to like flash out my gang signs. So I don't know, I'm not hitting my heart chakra right or whatever.
Right. There's no right.
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm getting at, is there is no right or wrong. The fact that your ass is on that seat is more important than, the correct alignment of things. Just the same way as I feel about your spiritual path. I don't give a fuck what book you're pulling your truths out of. If your truths are valuable and create good in the world and good in your personal self, have them. How the people get into the debates over like, well, if somebody says, happy Toyotathon to me and I celebrate, happy Honda days, I'm going to be mad. You can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had to do that. That's
really
one of my
cute.
favorite jokes of the holidays.
It's a cute way to like step out of the Christmas holiday. That's very cute.
I say that to say like people get upset, and I understand. I'm the only Buddhist I really know of in this area. I think I've maybe met two. Even I did go to a temple, and I don't want to say they are Buddhists, but they were born into it. So I would say people that I guess I don't even think that we really call it conversion, but because there was no like stamping on the hand like you are one now.
Have you taken refuge though?
Yeah, personally I have, and that's you take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. But largely, I don't know if it's just an introvert nature, but I don't participate in a Sangha outwardly. Mm-hmm. The temple, in fact, that I went to, once my teacher was done there, he told me not to come back. He said, I'm leaving at this date. He said, don't come back. They've been after your money since you've been coming here. And I'm not a cheapskate. Like I was, I would ask him like, what can I bring to help you guys? And he would always tell me, bring food, bring toilet paper, bring toothpaste, bring stuff that supports humans. Because they did have a monk community there of 13 monks. He had been a monk for, at the time then, probably 13 or 14 years himself. And he was a chiropractor from like Pennsylvania. And he just went on a retreat there. They had a retreat, and he did. It's a great story. They were like, all right, we're here to get your stuff. And, because they gave him like robes and a bowl and all the like traditional things. And he said, no, I'm not giving it back. I'm staying. And they're like, we have to give it back. You can't stay. And, so he said like there was a back and forth, and he actually sat down and talked to the master. And they said, okay, if you're serious and you're going to do this, there's going to be a process to this. So he had to go back home and thoughtfully give his things away and make arrangements for his stuff and those kind of things. And he had chickens and things like that. So he had a story of his own, but he said not to come back, mainly because they've been after money. And come to find out last year, good old fuck 2020, they got busted apparently, or they're under investigation for embezzlement of over $700,000. So
yikes.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe it could all be false. I haven't been there in years, so I don't really know. But, and the other thing is they weren't really my kind of space, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I try to set up, exactly. I try to like one of those find your tribe kind of things. And that's largely what I've been trying to do with like, our Facebook group, and I trying to do a thing on Slack so that I can get people together across platforms, trying to get people together that have a sense of humor about this stuff. So my idea of Sangha is a different kind of Sangha, because the Sangha traditionally is a community where monks and regular people are called lay followers, support each other, and it's a communal thing. But my idea of Sangha is a bit different than, I guess, the standard or traditional. So I have personally taken refuge. I have not been given ordination. That's one of the ones where you get like some traditions, you'll get like a different name. And those are great. Those are really great. But you don't have to be that. You don't have to do that. If anything, to me, I would say I'm more non-sectarian with my Buddhism, because I do find value in, there's 100 different schools. I do find value in most of them. And as I was taught and as it was explained to me, is Buddhism is like a tree. Some people find the most value in the roots. Some people find the most value in the bark. Some people find the most value in the leaves or limbs or fruits or whatever part of the tree you want to make the analogy about. it doesn't invalidate the other parts of the tree. It doesn't make them less of a tree. It's just, this is the part that works for you or speaks to you, or, you know what I mean? Like, this is the avenue that you have found most agreeable. And I think that's important as well. It's definitely a good distinction between what is, namely, how Buddhists handle, I guess, interaction with other schools versus, I mean, look at Christianity. I mean, we people tear each other apart because you're Episcopal, you know what I mean? Like, this is like,
Right.
oh, you're Pentecostal, you automatically kiss snakes or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, all the things people say about stuff. So yeah.
Is that what they say about Pentecostals?
Yeah, I think that's the one I've heard is Pentecostals supposedly kiss snakes and do tongues. I think tongues is their thing too.
Yes.
But same kind of thing. You know, people are like, oh, it's one of them snake kissing churches. Like, have you talked to them? Do you know that? Like, do you know they kiss snakes? Because if so, I kind of want to see, just because, you know, it could be kind of cool. I don't know. But just out of morbid curiosity. But yeah, so like I said, I don't have any, that's another important thing I try to tell people is that I don't have certifications. I don't have, you know, fancy lineage. My teacher was, like I said, a chiropractor from Pennsylvania, like 15 years before I met him, and his name's Edward. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not cool. Like, oh, your teacher's name isn't a John something, and you know what I mean? Like, so it's very unassuming, and that's I think a lot of people try to use that as something to down what I'm doing and what the Unusual Buddha is about. But if anything, I think that's empowering because it just shows that I'm doing the same thing you are, and I'm doing the admin a page, but I still visit Facebook or Instagram just the same as anybody else does. I just have a couple different buttons, those kind of things. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this like elitism that people try to make it.
Well, and that's one of the cool things about podcasts now, you know, like literally anyone can get the same education that I got in grad school, because if you just listen to the right podcasts, like you're getting all of the stuff. So we're making everything more accessible. But we're closing in on the end of the hour, and I need to make sure to ask you the questions before we get there. But how do you feel about the term healer in terms of what you do?
I didn't really think about it that way until you sent me that question, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, healer. Like, though I do find humor itself to be healing and therapeutic, I would say I don't directly heal. I don't do the, I don't know if you remember Karate Kid and he did the hand thing and he put his hands over the spot. Like that, to me, that's when I envision a healer, that's, I hate to be stereotypical, but that's kind of what comes to mind is like, I am in the physical act of healing. I don't feel like I do that. I feel like what I do facilitates you to heal. Facilitates you to, as my teacher would put it, the mental problems we have are like trash we've thrown in a pit, and a lot of times people just put a rock on top and we just leave it there. Meditation is taking the rock off, throwing the rock to the side, and just sitting in it and just looking at it like, okay, what can I do about this? And that's the thing is I'm not here, I'm not even trained to really, but I don't feel like I'm here helping people heal, because I feel like I'm doing my own healing. I'm uncovering things myself as I go. And I think it's important for people to become aware of their problems and then have to go through a healing process, whatever that looks like for them. I think part of it is with the focus and with those things is it facilitates healing, but I don't think it directly has a cause and effect relationship of healing.
Yeah. You know, I asked this question a million times and everybody gives a different but similar answer. So I'm not surprised to hear that. But how does the term wounded healer strike you?
That I feel like everybody to some extent has wounds that they carry with them. So I feel like you could add wounded in front of any other, type of wounded plumber, wounded auto mechanic, wounded, and I'm not making light of your thing. I don't want to do that.
Right.
But
no,
I feel like
totally.
we all carry something. And I think that's something that actually drew me to Buddhism the most, is that the first noble truth of Buddhism is that suffering is universal, and there's a lot of words people use for translation: suffering, unsatisfactoriness, whatever. All of us have that. All of us have those things. And I think no matter what you are doing, you are also processing, and healing from the scars of the past and kind of making your way through. Because even if you came from, and a lot of people may sort of cringe at this, but even if you came from a rich family, there is still damage that is imparted and comes with that kind of life. I feel like everything we do as people creates pain because that's sort of the nature of life.
And how freeing that is, right? Like,
exactly.
Some people's criticism of Buddhism is like, oh, it's just about the suffering. Like, no. As soon as you recognize that everything is about suffering, then you're free.
Exactly. It's almost
the paradoxical
like
nature of it.
Yeah, it's almost like a weight is taken off. Like we talked about limiting your practice. You've limited existence, that it's only to bring you happiness, but that all of these things, it really comes down to impermanence and our relationship with impermanence. Like nothing is meant to last here. Anything you meet is in a process of its birth and its death cycle, whether it's a mountain or a rock or your best friend or that painting or that cup that you just knocked off the table onto the floor and it shattered. Like all these things are impermanent and are meant to end. They're not meant to continue on. And I think one of the things of Buddhism that creates the wounds, but how we come to handle those things and how we process those things, I think it adds grace to life. Talking about pain and wounds, one of the concepts of Tibetan Buddhism that I came across, and I wish, again, I'm not very good about quoting verses in scripture and those kind of things. I get the ideas, but it was the idea that the universe, all of existence, has an amount of pain, and each of us has to shoulder our own load. Some of us far too much, some of us not nearly enough.
Ooh.
But
Ooh.
we all have a share. Exactly,
Ooh.
right?
I got chills and want to vomit at the same time.
I don't want to turn this into the Buddhist hour, but there's a lot of concepts to this stuff. And this is why I kind of fell in love with what I was reading, because a lot of this really makes sense. Is that maybe it's not fair, maybe it'll never be fair, but this is what it is, and that's as far as we acquire wounds, and a lot of times, quite frankly, it's by our own creation and by our own relationship to things that are impermanent and to things that we're not going to last. But as far as wounded healer, one, I couldn't think of anyone who is better suited to heal than somebody who has been wounded. A lot of times with different Buddhist schools, one of the things you'll read about if you just kind of dig in is the Bodhisattva vow. If you're talking about the two schools, if you're talking Orthodox and an offshoot, one of the characteristic trademarks of Mahayana is the Bodhisattva vow. And what that is, Bodhisattva means wisdom being. And what the Bodhisattva vow is that I vow that I will not attain enlightenment until everyone else does. So I'm going to keep coming back and play the role of trying to help people across the way until there's nobody left, and then we all can go. Whereas Theravada is largely, I'm going to do it, then I'm going to help you. Some people view that as kind of selfish, but their justification is that when I'm on more solid ground, I can better help you out of the mud. So I think there's value in both. And I think that, again, it largely comes down to temperament and your intention. I think that's probably one of the most powerful things. Though you are wounded, if you set out to heal, I think you can do a lot of really good, especially having been wounded, because I feel like who's better to talk to someone who's gone through a bankruptcy than someone who's gone through a bankruptcy?
Right. Well, that's why AA works. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
One alcoholic helping another. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes their community tight. That's what makes them, who's going to know what detox feels like better than somebody who went through it? Right. You know what I mean? I can't identify with that because I've never experienced that. I can only empathize. I can't sympathize. And I think being wounded gives you a greater capacity to identify with somebody and to help them in their process to heal.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to tell you before we wrap up, the Sangha that I was going to a while back is called Turgar, and the monk who leads that his name is Mingyur Rinpoche, and his book, In Love with the World, I think you would really love it because he's down to earth, even though he's always lived in a monastery. That was he was born in a monastery. He was some reincarnation of some super famous Buddhist dude. I don't even know. So he decided at age 36 or something like that to kind of go on a pilgrimage and explore the world. And it's just, he's so sweet, first of all. He's just the cutest. I could put him in my pocket, and I'm 5 feet tall. But anyway, I would totally encourage you and listeners to read it.
Yeah, I have to check that out. If I'll have to bug you for a link.
I'll send you a link. And for folks of the show, we'll have it in the show notes for you too.
There you go. Great. And that's something I really appreciated about the temple I went to, though there were possibly bad characters. Sitting down and talking to the master, it's a different feel. He had been a monk since he was 5, and he was 80 by the time I left.
Wow.
So 75 years. And I don't know if anyone knows the culture of becoming a monk, but largely in Eastern cultures, they do this where there are monasteries. People will bring their kids because that's the only route they have to education. And sometimes it's the only route they have to be fed. So if you can't feed them or educate them, and what are you going to do with them? You take them to the monastery, and sometimes they become junior monks and their whole life, and sometimes they only do it for a couple of years, kind of like high school, and you graduate and you go on and you have an education now. But somebody that's been a meditator and a Buddhist monk for that long, if you talk to these people, these spiritual teachers, I guess would be a better generalization I'm trying to make here, there's a gentleness to them. And I think in my mind, it's almost like you walk into it like it's a field. You know what I mean? Like you're walking into a sprinkler. It's like you feel moisture in the air. You walk a little closer, and now you are saturated. You know what I mean? And it feels very similar. You sit with them, and there's just this basic joy and this basic. You knew from the door you were already going to be understood. You know what I mean?
Yes, there's a pure
exactly. And I think that's something that almost every faith can make people like that, can generate a person like that, and that's something I think we should all strive to be.
Strive without striving. non-striving.
Yeah. I mean, we could seriously get down into the brass tacks of this if we wanted, but yeah, you get what I'm saying.
I do.
That's, I think, something that's really powerful about this kind of passage is because to me, that's the kind of person that kind of feels healing to even be around. You know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of feels like they are breaking down your barriers. They are making you softer just by being there, not in a way to take advantage, but in a way to just be with you. You know what I mean? It's just really powerful and it's amazing. And I love hearing stories about people that met a master or sat with somebody who is well learned in the faith of whatever kind. Is largely those experiences are the same.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up here, you want to tell people all the links you have where they can find you, where they can connect with you?
So many places. Honestly, the best way to find everything is I could sit down and rattle off for 15 minutes because I think I've tried a little something on every platform. But theunusualbuddha.com, and right in the header there, I have links to the main places we are. But we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, if you're into vlogs. We also have a podcast, The Unusual Buddha Podcast. We're on 10 platforms, so it should be wherever you like to get your podcast from. I do blog on the site a bit, and that's actually where I started. And as I kind of break down my stage fright, which is actually part of why I agreed to this, as I break those things down, I'm trying to do more things. But the hub for what we do is theunusualbuddha.com, and that's kind of where you could, if you're interested, you could dig in and see stuff and kind of find your fit from there.
Awesome. Well, you're just delightful.
I try. Don't tell anybody, 'cause I got a reputation to keep.
Right.
You gotta stay tough on these streets. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. These Virginia streets.
Rural Virginia, real tough out here. If I'll tell you what.
Oh man!
It was great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. This is like really fun. I never know what to expect with interviews, and like I said, I'm trying to. For me, 2020 was about realizing that how long I'd been my own roadblock, and I want 2021 to be about getting the fuck out of my own way. If there's something that people can take with it, I hope they take something similar and just step outside yourself. Like the meditation teaching thing, I wanted to do that for so long, and I didn't. Eventually, I just sat down and I'm going to figure out how to do this. I'm going to make it happen. And I just did. And I'm like, I could have been doing this all year, but I started in November. You know what I mean? Like I let myself be like, oh, it's not the right time. People won't be interested. Nobody will care. And largely a lot of that's true, but
that's not what it's about, right? Just like you said, if somebody comes in to meditate with an intended goal, then you're already fucked, right? So you want to teach for you, and that's so beautiful.
And that's not to take, like, I do want to help people with it too, but largely it's about, because it makes me feel good. You know what I mean? That's largely where I want to go. I want to help bring something that is quite often out of reach, and I want to bring it down and show them that it's simple, it's easy, it's almost like a birthright. Even you can do this. This is your mind. You could do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you, Jim. If you want to learn more about Jim or the Unusual Buddha, you can go to our website at www.headhearttherapy.com/podcast. Thank you to Andrea Klunder and the Creative Imposter Studios for editing, to Liam O'Donnell for our album art, and to Ben Mueller for our theme music. Until next time, hang in there, folks.